Welcome everyone, this is Neil King for Random Acts of Cartooning at Penn Archaeological Museum. But first, for this episode, my influence is Scott Pilgrim's Bryan Lee O'Malley. And he's been around for a long time. He is a very cartoony cartoonist, but I think he's got like one of the greatest senses of graphically putting together pages. It's kind of a manga style in its own way. But I love all of this stuff that he does. Like, look at this beautifully composed intro to the book. It's Scott Pilgrim 1, many volumes. But it's all graphic design, like I really like all the things he's doing. But when you see the little touches, because most of the time it's all figures, but he's such a cartoonist that he does have some factual stuff going on. See how he's done a little bit of his detail, enough that you're seeing some real feeling for reality. So I love the film too, and I don't know where they found this, like this little part, but it's obviously from something because it's so unique architecturally. Same thing here, interiors, all that kind of stuff. So I think he takes all this into consideration when he does these massive images. Lots of great dialogue, fun stuff. But this reads really well as a bus. And this graphic of Little Town, I think it adds to all the stuff that he does. Really thick line. But that's the touch to me. That's a very cartoony car and all that stuff, but it's observed. It's happening, and he's using it in different parts. I don't think this reads as well if this wasn't based in reality. It's hard to make stuff like that up. So I like to use him as an example because I love the style, these huge eyes, but it's not about that. It's about the way he paces everything, and he uses these little bits of reference throughout, and it reads as real. He just stylizes it. That's why I always hope to achieve with all the books that I do. All right, you probably have it, but such a great volume in the manga style, like even the format's small. Love it. Great stuff. Okay, we're back. So I brought my sketchbook to the Penn Archaeological Museum in Philly. As you see, I've done a few pieces recently. I like to go back and forth to some of the museums that we have in the city, easy to get to. And there's this just great section that they have there, their Egyptian section. So I went over and I just started laying out some of my major shapes to draw this statue of the Pharaoh. Now, it is a typical kind of statue that you would find from that Old Kingdom period. It looks like, it's a very kind of frontal image of the Pharaoh. So the way I handle it is I've put in a couple rectangles going back and to the side. The headpiece is supposed to be pretty flat, so if I had drawn this from the front, you'll easily see those things, but you got to use your perspective to realize that if you do a 3/4 view like I'm doing here, just establish your planes, and then you kind of get after it. The great thing about the museum is it's like these huge galleries, really tall ceilings, and people come in and come out. But to draw something in this thing, it's really nice. I'm there in the afternoon. There aren't a lot of people around for this day, but they have school groups and all that kind of stuff go through. I've drawn the last one for one of the episodes. I think there were some kids around and everything. For this one, I went on a separate day, and there weren't as many people. So in here, as you can see, I'm just laying out that jaw. And I'm just looking back and forth to, again, see where the headpiece kind of starts. It's such a unique style, the way that they do it, especially with those ears. They're kind of flat, the way that they put them on there. Everything else is pretty naturalistic. I mean, the body, it's an ideal body. The Pharaoh didn't look like this, most probably. But he's kind of in that ideal physical form that pharaohs would be shown. So there's a lot of detail up there on this, the head, with the headpiece and everything. This has been, broken in parts. You can see the nose. I'm not sure how well. I have an image of it soon that you might be able to tell how the nose has already been affected by something. That tends to be one of the things. But one of the big parts to Egyptian stuff is it's all very close in. The arms are close into the body. It's hard to really break like an arm off. You think of Venus de Milo and all that kind of stuff. Like, the more the limbs are off to the outside, the easier they are to just kind of break off by whomever is coming in to take over that region. And that's happened with all these really older sculptures that they're in. It's amazing that this thing was saved, because I'm sure whatever cultures would come in and take over, they would have just gotten rid of these other gods that weren't theirs. And a pharaoh is like one of those main things. I'm sure they found it at a tomb or something. So I'm just making my way through this headpiece. And I think the thing about it is when you look at it, the actual head, you can see like all the ideal features, but that nose has been lopped off, but an ideal form. Here we go. As always, remember I'm a working cartoonist, and this is another one of my books, Who Stole All the Heads at the Met. It's on my Amazon store. I've shown it before in my videos. Two brothers go to the Met, and one of the brothers thinks that his little brother stole all the heads in the Greek section. And he took them and hid them, so they have to replace the heads as they walk around. It's a nice little art history type of book, all ages. A lot of fun, but it's on my Amazon store. Make sure, as always, with all these videos, that you're liking and subscribing. Thanks. Now I'm kind of making my way towards the rest of the body, the torso, and all. He is sitting on kind of like a semi-little throne there, with some hieroglyphics on it and everything. But you really do, this is, especially for the Egyptians, they used specific proportions, these ideal proportions that they would all stick to. That's why most of the stuff that you see of the Egyptians looks so similar, the forms, that is. There's a period that they did go away from it, but for the majority of the stuff that you would see, all pretty ideal. So as I make my way down, I am looking for those proportions. How many heads high is it? Where does the head start? Where does the torso go? And to see these actual things, and you should definitely get to these kind of museums that show these full figures, is to show that how really proportioned these were, and how incredible the craftsmen were at creating these things. So again, looking through this, going to finding my light source. The gallery has some really nice light areas. You can see on my sketch pad, because from above, that's all my lights from above. So it's kind of casting onto my paper. But this was the thing I found too when I was sitting there and doing this. I was standing there doing this, and you look at them, and sometimes you just aren't really looking very closely, and you almost think that everything is there. So it was really not until I draw this thing that I really realized that arm was missing, the forearm area. And I was, I'd walked past this a few times, and you just don't know in this kind of ruined state what's there and what's not there. But it didn't even occur to me. It looked like my eye just cast right past it. without even thinking. So now again, I'm dealing with the legs, but I have to realize that there's a lot of foreshortening happening there. So with a pen, with my Bic that I'm drawing, I just do want to lay in where they basically are. And here's another part that, again, I wouldn't have seen that hand, that the forearm part that goes from that elbow to the wrist is gone. So the one hand is still there as if it's on his lap. And I would have totally missed it if I was just kind of walking past it. Maybe some people would see it because they just were kind of looking for something different. But you see a lot of sculptures, and I've seen a lot of Egyptian sculptures, and it just didn't occur to me. That's why drawing something is so important, because you really do notice all the stuff. Like, I just really walked past this, and I just thought it was all a complete statue. And it's just because I looked fast and I looked right past it. It's a beautiful image. These things would have been painted. But what's left of it, it's an amazing amount that's been left of it. But you can see over time that some of these things, maybe some of them that would have been buried more if this was in some kind of a, some type of a gallery that's wherever this would have been, or some, in Egypt, or, some type of an altar. It's amazing that any of it's still here. But as I'm moving through and just getting all the little information down, you can see where all these little things are happening. I'm just finding out more and more about it that I just didn't even think about, and just trying to show where some of this stuff starts and ends. So even as I'm going through, I keep adding, because I'm forcing myself to really look instead of just scan through like I can at some points, because sometimes it's just, you're not paying attention as much about what's every one of the things in a gallery is like. And because in this gallery there are so many amazing sculptures that you just kind of scan through it. So again, I'm kind of moving towards the hieroglyphics that are on this kind of semi-little throne that he's sitting on. And just trying to add a little bit, cartouches, any of that kind of stuff, adding little bits of information. But it's a beautiful gallery. I tried to step back and get a few shots of it. But it's a monumental piece. It's huge. So here's, again, like at the end, I'm trying to go in and just do the little touches, like force myself to see how big are those eyes really, like what's going on around him. I wanted to put a little bit of perspective in to get a little scale. So in the background, all the walls are kind of brick walls, but there are some windows and everything. But if you put them in perspective, I feel like it gives the sculpture that you're drawing, like it does give someone an idea of the space that you're in. I mean, I don't know how high those ceilings are in this gallery, but they're probably over 20 feet high. But it's kind of nice for these that, I focused a lot on the figure to get some of these things in. So I'm just laying in little stuff, and then I look back and try and find some of the things that I didn't see. Now, again, one of the crazy things is I'm working on that hand, and I'm like looking at it. I'm like, it comes off a little bit, trying to get it to seem like it's on that lap, on that leg. And then as I'm looking further in, I'm realizing at some point here that there's another part, because that hand, the other hand, has been taken off. So I have to show where that hand was originally. And because this is in that certain amount of ruined state, that hand is no longer there. And again, it's a great thing about having to draw something. I just would have looked right past it. You take things for granted because you don't see that specific thing. So really coming kind of down to the end of this, seeing like little stuff, I was going to put somebody, sometimes I'll put people next to the sculpture so that you get some kind of a sense of height of the piece. But I just put in some of the little bits of information here uh, for the uh, for the windows that are there. A little bit of perspective to see it. Um, but I appreciate you coming and watching, and we'll see you next episode.